Friends, welcome to our today's session on auditing. Uh, just give me 1 second. Let me show you the screen. So today our plan is to cover these two aspects. First of all, one is standard setting process, how auditing standards are set in our country. Then we'll be learning these qualities of auditor and related items like independence of the auditor. All these things we are going to cover today. But before that, let us quickly recapitulate some of the key issues which we have already discussed earlier. And you already know that some basic things like this, what is the nature of audit, what is the definition, what is the objective, what is the scope, all these things we have discussed. And it is very important to understand few more concepts. Okay, those concepts also we'll be discussing. After that only we'll be able to study the auditing in detail. So let me quickly recapitulate what has already been taught to you in earlier sessions. Only the key important points we'll be discussing before coming to the standard setting process and the qualities of auditor. So let us go back. Friends, from the very beginning, we started to understand what is an auditing. In fact, we tried to learn what is the meaning of auditing. And that context we have understood auditing, what happens exactly. Auditing is a process where auditor expresses an opinion on the financial statement, right? That is in fact an independent opinion. And auditor examines the financial statement and collects related evidences. And these are the activities, or these are the various elements of the auditing process. The auditor perceives the situation, recognizes the incident, collects evidence, evaluates those evidences, then applies his judgment and communicates his opinion in the form of a report. And preparation of the financial statement is the responsibility of the management. Auditor gives an opinion on that. Okay, the meaning of financial statement we have already understood. Right, and you also know this financial statement has to be prepared in accordance with the financial reporting framework. This financial reporting framework is extremely important to us. So what is this financial reporting framework? Friends, please keep this in your mind because this is very important in the context of audit. So it refers to a set of criteria which is used to determine measurement, recognition, presentation, and disclosure of all material items that are appearing in the financial statement. So all these material items which are appearing in the financial statement has to be measured, recognized, presented, and disclosed in accordance with the set of criteria. So that criteria can be referred to as financial reporting framework. So your requirements of, let us say, accounting standard, the requirements of company law and other related law, all of them are forms a part of financial reporting framework, and in accordance to that, financial statement has to be prepared. Okay, objective of financial statement we have understood, and we have also tried to define the audit. Okay, by in this manner. Okay, like this, it is an independent examination of financial information of an entity. The entity may be profit oriented or not, irrespective of size and legal form. This opinion is expressed. Okay, so that is the meaning. That is how we have tried to define the auditing. And auditing process also you have discussed. This chart I had also explained you earlier that how financial statements, different kinds of financial statements are prepared within financial reporting framework, and how auditor evaluates those financial statements and gives his opinion. And in every situation, the process of auditing involves comparing the financial statement with books of account and books of account figures with supports, then cross-checking financial statement with other related documents like this. So this entire process also we have discussed earlier. Okay, and we know that objective of audit is to express an opinion on the financial statement. Scope of audit also, we have discussed auditing. In auditing, auditors should cover all the aspects which are relevant to the financial statements, right? And auditors should not go beyond his scope of competence. This chart explains you or summarizes all the aspects relating to scope of audit. Okay, and scope of audit may be determined according to terms of engagement or as per requirements of the relevant legislation or as per the pronouncement of the institute. So these aspects we have learned it earlier. Okay, and aspects to be covered under audit. We have seen a list that it includes examination of the accounting and internal control system, review of system and procedures, checking arithmetical accuracy, verification of authenticity and validity of transaction, ascertaining the distinction between revenue and capital items, comparing balance sheets with other related statements, verifications and verification of title and existence of assets, verification of liabilities. Okay, checking the results of profit and loss statement, confirming the statutory requirement, reporting to appropriate persons. All these are the aspects of an audit which needs to be covered in every auditing situation. Then one more important concept, which is also extremely important, we have understood, that is the assertions. Okay, when financial statements are prepared, they are prepared or certain assertions are involved in the preparation and presentation process. So these assertions, in fact, refers to representations made by management, explicit or otherwise, that are embodied in the financial statement, as used by auditor to consider the different types of potential misstatements that may occur. These aspects, what are the assertions, we have discussed in detail earlier in our previous classes. Recorded classes are available. You can refer to that. When you are coming to the technicalities of the auditing, you will understand that what auditor does, auditor in fact verifies these assets. Okay, so these are in fact, you can say, if you refer to definitions again, these are in fact explicitly or implicitly indicated by the management. Auditor tests those assets, right? So this assertion can be relating to certain transactions, some accounting balances, or maybe relating to presentations and disclosures. These are the list of assertions. Each one of them we have discussed it thoroughly. Okay, assertions about accounting balances, assertions about transactions, assertions about presentations and disclosure. Then, friends, we have covered what are the various types of audit, broadly statutory audit and voluntary audits. And we have seen how the auditing is related to other disciplines. And what are the advantages of auditing, that also we have already discussed. After that, the next concept we have covered is the inherent limitations of an auditing. Auditing is not totally limitation free. There are limitations. So the inherent limitations, we discussed on this thing. Okay, in which situation auditor has to face these limitations. Okay, now this is the area where we are going to start standard setting process, how standards are set. Friends, this is again important. Important in the sense the entire auditing activities of the process needs to be standardized, or internationally has been failed that the entire thing has to be standardized. So therefore, this particular institution, if you have a look at this slide, that is International Federation of Accountants. You see IFAC. IFAC plays a very important role in standardizing the auditing process. So you can say at international level, they are the standard setting authority. Okay, not exactly authority. You can say that's a standard setting body. This IFAC, or International Federation of Accountants, was set up in the year 1977 in New York City. Right. And there is a board. The name of that board is International Auditing and Assurance Standards Board, IAASB. This is an independent board, which is you can say the independent standard setting body, which works under the auspice of IFAC, and independently it sets standards. That body is independent. And this International Federation of Accountants, that organization is also independent. And IFAC issues various pronouncements which relates to audit, review, and other assurance services. But since they're international standard, they do not override the local laws or regulations. That means if there is some inconsistency between the international standard and the local law will prevail. Okay, let us say our Indian law says something and the international standard of auditing says something, then local law provisions will prevail. Understood? So this is, you can say, the premier body IFAC. So let me right now take you to the website of IFAC so that you can have some idea about the institution. Just give me a moment. Yeah, are you seeing Chrome browser now? Yes or no? Please reply.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So I'm taking you to the home page of IFAC. Yeah, ifac.org. You can visit there. International Federation of Accountants. Now you see. Are you able to see it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Here you see there is standard setting boards here, but you see various kinds of standards are issued. This is the international organization, and you see this preparing for new quality management standards, global engagement against corruption. There are something again for management standards, ISQM, and this particular organization, International Federation of Accountants, has so many standard setting boards. Are you seeing it here? If I click here, and this is the important board I am referring to, IAS. Are you able to see it?
Yes, sir.
If you click here, you can get it, the International Auditing and Assurance Standards. Okay, so this is the board which developed the international auditing standards and other related assurance standards, quality control standards, all these standards. Okay, but friends, please remember that they are international standards. Okay, they may not be suitable for a particular country. So every country tries to, most of the country, not every country, some countries may be adopting it as it is, but many countries like our country, they try to customize it, keeping in mind the local requirement, keeping in mind the local conditions. Okay, some modification they do, and we follow the local standards. Otherwise, also, if there is some inconsistency, then local law and regulation will prevail over the international standard. Okay. Okay, friends. Now let us see. This is the international situation. Let us see what happens in India. This is the website. Both the websites I had shown you. You can refer to visit to those websites. International standards you may not be able to download freely. It is a paid service. You have to purchase. Okay, but Indian standards get freely downloadable. I can show you where to do that. So what I told you as of now is that this International Federation of Accountants, or IFAC, is the premier body, and IASB works under the auspice of IFAC. And this IASB, in fact, has issued 3 types of standards. There are some standards which are relating to audit, some standards which are related to review assignments. Okay, and there are some standards which are related to other assurance services. And all these standards are issued, but all that you have to keep in mind that these standards are international standards. They do not override local laws and regulations. So you have to comply with local laws and regulations. Okay, you just cannot say that I have done it in accordance with the international standards. Okay, you can do it provided it is consistent with the local laws and regulations. If local law and regulation is saying something different, then you have to follow your local law and regulation. Are you getting it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now let us see what is the situation in India. If you come to India, then ICAI, that stands for Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, is a member of IFAC. So like this, every countries have this similar kind of institution. So they are the members of, most of them are the members of International Federation of the Accountant. And here ICAI is a founder member from the beginning. ICAI has been a member. And Institute of Chartered Accountants of India had a committee that was called as Auditing Practice Committee, APC. And that was formed in the year 1982. And the role of that committee is to review the existing practices and to develop standard auditing practices. Okay. At that time, the standard auditing practices were issued by the ICAI, and they're referred to as SAFs. SAF stands for Standard Auditing Practices. These are history now. Now you see names has been changed with this thing. Now, how this APC was developing SAFs, it was taking into consideration to the international standards, while effort is made to integrate them in light of conditions and practices prevailing in India. So Indian conditions and Indian practices are taken into consideration, and international standards were modified, or Indian situations are integrated to international standards, and the standard auditing practices or SAFs were issued. Okay. Later on, in July 2002, this APC, the Auditing Practice Committee, was converted into Auditing and Assurance Standard, because now standards are not relating to auditing only. Some other assurances like review assurances, quality control services like this, some other things are also included. So name of the committee is changed. It is now Auditing and Assurance Standard Board, AASB. Okay, it is exactly in line with international board. And the name of the SAFs were later on changed to Auditing and Assurance Standards, or AAS. Okay, the next change happened in the year 2007. What happened? The AASB adopted revised refers to standards on quality control, auditing, review, and other assurance related services. So AASB adopted and the international, so you can say international standards. Okay, international standards are also classified like quality control standards, auditing standards, review standards, okay, and assurance related service standards. Okay, so India also, same thing happened. And now what has happened? There are various standards issued in India, and standards are now named based on the types of assurance it provides. So not that all the standards which are issued by AASB are auditing standards, there are other standards also. Indian standards you can refer to, you can feel it, download it. Okay, for that thing, I have to take you to the website of ICAI. So let us visit to that place. Okay, let me share the screen again. Let us say Indian auditing standards. You should know where the source. It is ICAI.org. You can go. Okay, are you able to see it?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Let us say Indian auditing standards. If you see the homepage of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, you see this is the homepage of ICAI, Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. Various resources are available. Now we are going to these resources. Are you able to see resources? Okay. Under resources, you see So different kinds of standards are there, accounting standards, ICA evaluation standards, all these things are there. But we are interested in this standard. Can you read it here? What is written here?
Sir, engagement and quality control standards, complete text.
Engagement and quality control standards, which includes that auditing standards. So let me click here. You will see various types of standards are issued. These standards are freely downloadable, but these are little technical, maybe little difficult for you to understand, but still you may refer. Okay, if you click here, you find out these are the standards. You see, what is this first standard? Can you read it?
The standards on quality control.
These are the standards and quality control. This is called as SQC1. Okay, quality control for firms that perform audit and review of historical financial information and other assurance and related service engagement. This is the name of SQC1. These are the quality control standards. Okay. Then you see other thing, new and revised standards, auditing, review, and others. Okay, you see, these are the list of standards. This is a series of standards. Standard 100 to 109 on 199 talks about introductory matters. Then you see, this is another series 200 to 299 general principles and responsibility. You see, these are the standards. SA 200 standards on auditing 200, SA 210, 220, 230, 240, 250. Are you getting it? This talks about, let's say 230 talks about audit documentation. Right. 200 talks about overall objective. Are you seeing it? You see, risk relating to audits are in this series 300 to 349. Audit planning of financial statement. Okay, let's say 330 talks about auditor's response to assessed risk. So these are the standards. So 500 series talks about audit evidences. The audit evidences. So these are various standards. Okay. Sometimes auditor uses the works of others. So therefore, this standard 600 series will be useful at that point of time. 700 series talks about audit conclusions and the reporting. You see, these are the standards. Standard 800 to 899 talks about some specialized areas. Okay. 2000 series standards talks about review engagement. This is not exactly audit engagement. The 3000 series standards talks about engagement other than audit or review. Like the standards on assurance engagements are covered in 3000 series. 4000 series standards talks about standards on related services, like agreed upon procedures, compilation engagements. These are the standards which are applicable. Apart from standards, you see these are called as a GCs or some general clarifications. They are also issued here. GC1. Okay, general clarification. This clarification, you see, this is the clarification for SA 210. This is another clarification for SA 620. Okay, if you want to have some idea, let us say you want to learn something. Let us say you want to know what is audit evidence. Okay, then simply you can do one thing. You can click here, read it or download it also. Okay, you see audit evidence. Entire material is available. Are you getting it? Okay, I think you are very comfortable. You got a fair idea how to read it. Right. So now you must have understood that auditing is a very, very technical subject. And you have to, if you practically you are doing audit, you have to follow all these things. Okay. When we are in the resources head, you see resources. You have seen where auditing standards are available. Standards and audit are here. Okay. And acha, I will come back to that. Okay. Got some idea now? What is the source of your resources? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now, What I told you, what I showed you, let me share the screen and explain you in PPT. So you have understood what is the how auditing profession or auditing activities are standardized in India, because the auditors are supposed to follow the standards. Okay, and it is essential to standardize the things. Okay, what I showed you and just now you have seen, in India, auditing assurance board has issued these standards. Okay, if you see standards and quality control, there is one standard. Standards on audit, 37 standards have been issued so far. Standards on review engagement, there are 2 standards. Standards on assurance engagement, there are 2 standards. Standards on related services, there are 2 standards. Totally, how many standards are issued in India, which are relating to my auditing and assurance services? Total, how many standards?
44.
44. So one need to have idea about these standards, but all of the standards we are not going to learn, but definitely we'll be covering the standards and auditing. Not that exactly all the standards will be covering, but the key elements of the standards will be covered, right? All the key important things will be covered here. Okay, now just have a look at this picture. It will give you some idea which standards refers to what. When you talk about the essays or standard or auditing, they have to be applied when someone is auditing the historical financial information. For example, if the financial statements are ready, then that has to be audited. The essays has to be followed. Similarly, SREs, where audit is not involved, but the financial statements might be reviewed. The historical financial statements are reviewed. Then one needs to report to SREs. Okay, if there is some other assurance investment other than audit, suppose client and auditor agreeing to do some and agreeing to engage, agreeing to be engaged in some other assurance services, like you may say compliance of account or some certification services. Auditor is going to issue some certificate. So those kind of engagements. So SAEs, that is on assurance engagement, standards on assurance engagements, those standards will be applied. Okay, so like this, SRS will apply to the engagements where an agreed upon procedures has to be followed. That means auditor or clients agree to follow a procedure. They have decided this is the procedure has to be done. In those kind of situations, SRS will be applied. So not that essays are important, other standards are important. But academically, as of now, for us, standards and auditings are important. Okay, you can have a look at this chart. It will also give you some broad idea the how standards are organized. Okay, friends. Now you can see how the serial numbers of the standards are organized. Introductory matters. Standard series number is 100 to 199. General principles and responsibilities 200 to 299. Risk assessment and response to assess this 300 to 499. Audit evidences 500 to 599. Using work of others 600 to 699. Audit conclusions and reporting 700 to 799. And some specialized areas are covered under 800 to 899. So this is I'm talking about SAs or standards of audit. Okay, friends. Now, friends, let us talk about compliances of these standards. Friends, these standards are mandatory in nature, meaning that has to be complied with in an auditing situation. And these are issued by the institute with a view to securing compliance by members. So the members of the institute, that means members of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India who are auditing, they have to comply with this. The compliance of these standards needs to be secured. So these standards or compliance of these standards are critical for proper discharge of their function. So if the standards are not followed, then it will be understood that the member of the institute has not properly discharged his role. Needs to be complied while discharging the attest function. Okay. So when the member of the institute is auditing or auditing a financial statement and he's putting a signature on that, he's showing that this is the financial statement which I have audited. Okay, he's signing on that. So when discharging that attest function, it is necessary to ensure that the auditing standards are complied with. Okay. So friends, you must have learned or you must have seen now also, there are so many standards like accounting standards you are well aware of. And now you are seeing one more set of standards, that is standards and audit. Accounting standards normally you refer to AS and standards of auditing we refer to SA. Okay, AS and SA. Let us see what is the responsibility with respect to this AS and SA. Friends, please remember the standards relating to accounting matters are to be complied. All standards relating to accounting matter has to be compliant. If it is not compliant, that means if you feel that accounting standards were supposed to be compliant as not compliant. For example, you see, so you know, let us say closing stock or closing inventory needs to be valued at cost or NRV, whichever is lower. That's the requirement of, let us say, accounting standard. Or revenue has to be recognized when risk and reward is transferred, like this. If it is not compliant, it is the role of the management to ensure that the financial statements are prepared in accordance with the financial reporting framework. Otherwise, it will not show true and fair. So if it is not compliant, the financial statement may not be showing true and fair. Okay, that possibility is also there. Now, what auditor is supposed to do? Okay. If it is not compliant, auditor has to see that adequate disclosure is given in the audit. Auditor has to ensure that these things are disclosed in the audit. And if the statements relating to auditing matters are there also supposed to be followed in the course of audit. Okay, if those auditing statements or standards and auditing or guidance notes and auditing or general clarifications and auditing, if those are not followed, then audit report should draw attention to the material departure therefrom. Let us say auditing standard says something and auditor has not followed that. Then auditors should in his report clearly mention it, that in such situation, the standards are not followed. Okay. If there is a material departure from the standard, auditor needs to disclose it. Got it, friends? Let me once again show you that slide. You can read it now. Statements relating to accounting matters are compliant, else adequate disclosure in audit report has to be made. But statement relating to auditing matters are to be followed, else audit report should draw attention to material departure therefrom. If auditor has materially departed from the standards and auditing, then he has to draw attention in the audit report. So that is the responsibility of the auditor with regards to AS and SA. But in addition to that AS and SA, you can find out some guidance notes are also issued by the institute. The following this SAS, guidance note, etc., comes within the financial reporting framework also. Okay, some guidance notes are also issued by the institute. Let me give you some idea that how to locate those guidance notes. Let me take you once again to the institute's website. Right, are you able to see it now? Institute website. Are you seeing it on your screen?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now you have seen where to locate this thing, standards and auditing, right? Now standards and auditing you can find out under resources. You can also find out here guidance note. Are you seeing it? When I say guidance note, these are something which is not mandatorily followed, but in a normal situation needs to be followed. So if you click here guidance note, you can find out. Are you able to see it? Guidance note on auditing aspects. There are other guidance note on accounting aspects also, or in some other areas like transfer pricing, on income tax, section 44 AB audit. For these things, separate guidance notes are there. But now we are interested in which guidance note? Guidance note on auditing aspects, right? Guidance note or auditing aspects. Now you see, these are the list of guidance notes which are issued in the context of auditing. So many guidance notes are there. And all of them are important. That's why, friends, you might have understood now that auditing is a highly technical thing now. You have to follow the standard and you have to also follow the guidance note. Okay, let us say guidance note of the company's auditor's report on consolidated financial statement like this. So many guidance notes are there. For example, you see audit of PPE, property, plant and equipment, audit of cash balances, okay, debtor, loans, advances, audit of expenses, audit of inventories. You see so many guidance notes are there. Audit of revenue. Are you getting it? Then you see industry specific guidance note like audit of banks, audit of members of stock exchange, right? Okay. So if you want, you can refer to, let us say you want to see what is audit of inventories. So you know inventory recognition, you can click here. This is the guidance note which explains how to audit inventories. Okay. Internal control evaluation, verification, how this has to be done. This guidance note suggests. So one can, anytime one can read it. Okay, friends. Now, the purpose of showing this thing to you is that now you can have confidence that once the material is available with you, you yourself cannot. Okay, if you want to check a particular transaction, let us say you want to verify whether inventories are properly recognized or disclosed, measured or not. So you can see the guidance note. Okay, or anything you can refer to the auditing standard, you can find it out how that is to be checked. Okay, now you have some idea about the source where all these informations are available. And all these things are designed in line with international standards and keeping in view the local conditions and situations. So local laws and conditions of the country is taken into consideration. And they're integrated to the international standards and international standards are issued. Okay, friends. Now, apart from auditing standards, there are also quality control standards. Okay, which are issued, you know. And this list of the standards I had already shown you. You can just have a look. That what are the name of these standards, you can have a look. This audit evidences will be learning in detail subsequently. Using work of others, audit conclusions and reports, how reports will be issued, how a report can be modified, how a specific paragraph, that is emphasis of matter paragraph, can be included in the auditor's report. All these things you'll be learning. Okay, there are some standards which relate to some specialized areas. Some of them will be covering it directly. So like this, these are some, let us say, some of the standards and related services. This is the list. And these are the two general clarifications which are also issued. That also can be referred to. Okay, friends. Now, having understood basically what is the nature, objective, scope, advantage, disadvantage, type of the audit, and what is the background, how auditing profession or auditing activities are standardized. The next thing is that let us learn one more concept. That is what should be the qualities of an audit. Okay. Now, let me show you that thing, qualities of an auditor. So, in various cases or various court laws, the judges have expressed their opinion about what should be the qualities of the auditor. So, in standards and auditing 200, SA 200, various qualities are discussed. These are the three qualities which are important for us. That is integrity, objectivity, and independence. All the auditors are expected to have these three qualities at least. And in various courts, or let us say Justice Dixie has said one more thing. All these qualities an auditor should have, like tact, caution, firmness, good temper, integrity, discretion, industry, judgment, patience, clear-headedness, reliability. All these qualities an auditor is expected to have. So in sum, we can say all the personal qualities which are required to become a good businessman, an auditor should have all this. He should have a sign-up culture for attaining great heights. And out of this, if you see the auditing standards, I say 200, three things are extremely important for us. It is integrity, objectivity, and independence. These three qualities auditors should have. We'll be discussing these things in detail. What is the meaning of all these things? He should have knowledge about various laws, governing statute, contracts, right? Let us say he's auditing a company. He should have the knowledge about the governing statute, that is Companies Act 13 or 1956. He should have the basic knowledge about the Contract Act. Okay, those knowledge is necessary. He should have knowledge in the area of financial management, general management, information system, economics, so that he can entirely understand the business situation and the business transactions. Knowledge of conduct of business he should have. He should have all the basic human qualities. And in a case, London General Bank case, Justice Lindley has said this thing: an auditor must be honest. That is, he must not certify what he does not believe to be true. If your auditor believes that it's not true, he should not satisfy it at all. And must take reasonable care and skill before he believes that what he certifies is true. The first thing is that he should not certify what he doesn't believe to be true. That is one thing. But if he is certifying, then he should take reasonable care and skill before he believes that what he certifies is true. So reasonable care he has to take. That means he has to verify the transaction, check the transaction. After that only he should certify, if he is certifying on some, certifying a transaction. Okay. Auditing firms are required to have a system of quality control. The auditor should have this thing, follow the quality control system. Okay. A auditing firm, if we talk about, they should have different policies. The policies should cover like this: leadership responsibilities and qualities within the firm. There should be policy on ethical requirements. There should be policy on acceptance and continuance of client relationship and specific engagement. Policy on HR, policy on engagement performances, policy on monitoring the audit. So these policies and procedure needs to be clearly defined. That will ensure that the audit firm is having a good quality control system. Okay, this is about audit firm. Okay. If you refer to SA 220, which talks about the quality control for an audit of financial statements, it says the engagement partner shall take the responsibility for the overall audit quality on each audit engagement to which that partner is assigned. So overall responsibility of maintaining audit quality lies with the engagement partner. Okay, there is a lot of importance attached to the audit quality. Okay, the importance to audit quality of performing the work that complies with professional standards and regulatory legal framework that is required. That when audit is conducted, it has to be compliant all professional standards, the required professional standards and regulatory framework. It should comply with the firm's own quality control policy and procedures. And audit report should be issued which is appropriate. Suppose in a particular situation, it's appropriate to issue an adverse report. Adverse report means the auditor has to say the financial statement doesn't show to be fair. So that kind of report should have been issued. Okay, so audit report should be issued which is appropriate to the circumstances. And the engagement team's ability to raise concern without fear and reprisals. Engagement team should be able to raise his concern without any fear. If the team who is engaged in the auditing profession, if finds some irregularity, discrepancy, or some material error and fraud, they should be without fear raise that issue, so that the engagement partner can consider that issue and decide which kind of report will be appropriate. Okay, so in essence, you can say the maintaining quality is essential in auditing, and that will be possible when these professional standards are followed and firms have their own quality control system, and those system procedures policies are also. Okay, so right now you might be wondering, who is this engagement partner? The engagement partner we are discussing in the context of a firm who is doing the audit. Okay, so we'll be learning that thing later on. We'll be entering into some other standards, but at a very basic level, let me explain you what is the meaning of engagement partner. It refers to the partner or other person in the firm who is responsible for the audit engagement and its performance, and for auditor's report that is issued on behalf of the firm, and who, where required, has appropriate authority from professional, legal, or regulatory body. That means you can say engagement partner who is responsible for handling that audit, that particular audit engagement. Suppose there is an audit firm with 5 partners, and one audit has come, a company audit has to be conducted. Then one partner may be assigned with the responsibility for that audit engagement. Now he becomes the engagement partner. He is responsible for the audit engagement, and is also responsible for performing and for issuing auditor's report, and he should have appropriate authority to do so. That partner will be regarded as the engagement partner, and it is his responsibility to ensure that the auditing standards are complied with and firm's own quality control policies procedures are also complied. That is the role of engagement partner. Okay, friends, we'll stop here for the time being. Then we'll cover other elements like integrity, objectivity, other aspects of auditors' quality we'll be discussing in our subsequent class.
Excuse me, sir.
Just a minute. Up to this, is it clear to you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Excuse me, sir.